Afternoon, everyone. So, a new motion was filed by the government in the case against Eric Parker, Scott Drexler, Ricky Loveland, and Steve Stewart. It is the government's motion for an equal number of preemptory challenges. They certify that the motion is timely filed. The United States, by and through the undersigned, respectfully move for the assignment of equal number of preemptory challenges during jury selection in the above captioned case. In support of this motion, the government submits the following memorandum of points and authority. In a non-capital felony case, the government has 6 preemptory challenges and the defendant or defendants have 10. It is within the trial court's decision to condition and grant of additional preemptories to the defendants upon a stipulation to additional preemptories by both sides. The government requests such relief in this case. In Trial 1, the court ordered that the defendant should have 10 challenges to exercise jointly, with an additional 6 to divide among themselves. The defendants, many of whom worked cooperatively and who presented a joint defense, thus had 16 preemptory challenges to the government's 6. It became apparent during a jury selection in Trial 1 that the defendants were able to use their additional challenges to mold the juries demographically. For example, the defendants largely struck males and African Americans from the veneer. They struck males and African Americans, leaving the jury with 9 females, only 1 who were African American, and 3 males. In all, wait a minute, that's 25%. There were 12 jurors. Let's put this into perspective, guys. The defendant struck males and African Americans, leaving the jury with 9 females, so 75%, and 3 males, 25%. In all, the defendant struck 5 of the 6 African Americans, prompting a Batson challenge by the government. By way of further example, the only prospective juror who identified her sexuality as homosexual was also struck by the defendants. Why does someone's sexuality have to do... Why is that question even brought up? I don't get that. What difference does it make whether you're gay or straight or who you sleep with? What does that have to do with a criminal trial? Coincidentally, or perhaps as part of a broader strategy to seek jurors willing to nullify a verdict, the same juror, in response to a question by the defense about Susan B. Anthony, stated that she would follow the law as instructed by the court. Oh, so now they want to bring my relatives into this. I'm supposedly related to Susan B. Anthony on my mother's side. Yeah. A government contends that granting additional preemptory challenges to the defendants in this case without granting an equal number of preemptory challenges to the government provides the defendants with the unchallenged opportunity to change the jury demographically such that is no longer representative of the greater Las Vegas community. But this isn't supposed to represent the Las Vegas community. Isn't this supposed to be Clark County? Clark County as a whole? It's not just about Las Vegas. The government should have the ability to challenge that practice through the exercise of an equal number of preemptory challenges. Further, in the same vein, there was a great deal of pre-trial press and publicity before Trial 1 and even more after, including the release of at least 2 documentary programs that depicted evidence that was disclosed to the defense in discovery and subject to non-disclosure under the protective order entered in this case. Further, much of the pretrial publicity generated in both conventional and alternative media has been largely selective and negative towards the government, but most extraordinarily so in social media. Many of the defendant's supporters have gone to great lengths to make record and publish into the public domain through YouTube and blogs untrue and disparaging remarks about the trial. The evidence, the court, government counsel, and investigating agents spinning bizarre conspiracy theories and casting the government in a false light. The government, which is precluded from commenting in the media on the evidence, witnesses, the trial, or any other matters which litigation is pending, either directly or indirectly, has been greatly disadvantaged in finding a jury that has not been exposed to the biased social media campaign launched by the defendants and their surrogates. Granting an equal number of preemptory challenges to the government will assist in leveling the playing field for finding an impartial jury whose members have not tainted by exposure to the barrage of false information propagated by the supporters of the defendants. Thus, to preserve fairness and equal access to the courts, the government requests, in the event the court grants the defendants additional preemptory challenges, that it do so contingent upon stipulation that the government receive an equal number of challenges. For example, if the defendants collectively are granted 14 preemptory challenges, the government should also receive 14. And this is the latest motion filed by the prosecution, who feels that they are not on a level playing field. In spite of the court scheduling the case in accordance with the convenience of the prosecution, in spite of the court ordering the phases in which these men would be tried, the structure of the groups that would be tried together, the prosecution was also allowed to call witness after witness with the same testimony, of which was partial lies, and the fact that there is evidence that has been withheld from the defense, that the defense has either found out late in the trial or after the trial about a certain couple witnesses that the prosecution was supposed to call, one of which was not called because the investigation into this leader at the Bundy Ranch found that he was compromised big time, huge. And now we have found out about the character of another government witness who was allowed to testify during the first trial, in which he was not questioned about the reasons for his arrest or why he feels like he is above local law when operating in a state, and why he was carrying around 3 driver's licenses and why he was not charged for those crimes. So the prosecution has a clear advantage when it comes to all of these defendants, because the prosecution gets to go home every night, sleep in their own bed, have regular contact, and live about their daily lives while they are prosecuting this case. Whereas all of the defendants have been held without bail during this whole thing, while the court and the prosecution have dragged their cases or dragged their feet in spite of having 2 years to prepare their case against these men. So I'm not sure what they're talking about by not having a level playing field. The advantage has always been with the prosecution. The fact that they are retrying this case again because they failed to convince the first jury of 12 that they were innocent goes to prove that the prosecution still has the advantage, in spite of the waste of taxpayers' money They are going to retry the same men for the same crimes and produce what new evidence? Really? I mean, and call the same witnesses? And because he feels like he's a disadvantage because there are people that have spoken out and shared what they saw and what they think. It is, if anything, this whole thing has been unfair to the defendants. Their whole lives and their families' lives have been placed on hold, while the prosecution's team has been able to live out their lives in spite of trying this case. Let's talk about fairness. Let's talk about equality here, because these men have not been found guilty of a crime, but they're being held like criminals.